Strong looks different for each of us, and it's time to put focus on our unique journeys that get us there. This space created weekly is for athletes to improve their mindset in order to better navigate challenges that come up in sport and in different seasons of life. On this show, we ask the questions that lead to better answers and have the conversations that truly matter. This is the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Your Strong podcast. I'm excited to be here today because I've got energy and I am still going through it, y'all. If you heard my episode from last week, there's just been a lot going on, a lot of frustration, a lot of stress. We're still navigating it, but we're doing it with so much energy because of the mindset shifts and perspectives that I'm employing in my life right now. So if you're like, I need a little bit of that chipper energy, be sure to go back and listen to that episode from last week. I am most thrilled because this is my opportunity to hear from my listeners and to answer some of the questions and give them perspectives on things that they're actively going through in their life, whether that be something personally, something in their career, something in their athletics. Like, I love hearing what's going on out there in the field because I'm experiencing it too. And just being able to give a very genuine perspective on what I've been through and how to help you navigate through it as well. So this week's episode is going to be a listener Q&A, and it's going to be mostly geared towards mindset. A lot of the questions that I've been receiving are coming from athletes, so this is going to be more of like a mindset for athletes type of episode. And what I think I'm going to do is actually make this a series where I have just different feels to different episodes or different topics when it comes to like the listener Q&As. So stay tuned for those to come in the upcoming weeks. But before we get through to the Q&A, let's talk about the Becoming Your Strong moment of the week. I wanted to give a shout out to one of my clients that is out there in the UK doing the thing. Miss Lucy, if you were listening to this, I'm giving you the biggest hug. When I talk about the fact that like we've all been like going through it, this is one of the individuals that has been just curveball after curveball. It has just been like truly one thing after the other. And the block that she's wanted to put in for some of these upcoming races that she's had hasn't been what she's wanted it to be. It's been anything but that. And so she has just this insane drive to like want to put in the work and want to do well, but life is giving her other things to navigate instead, right? And so she came to me being like, hey, I have this race this weekend. I'm going to be wearing my underdog kit. And I'm honestly like, I'm nervous and I'm terrified that like I'm going to let down the brand. Like, I'm nervous of people looking at me being like, oh, well, she should have been better because she's an underdog, and she's not. She doesn't want to be the person to let down the bigger team, the bigger brand. And so when I heard this, I sent her a message and I just encouraged her to not worry about letting down myself, letting down the team, letting down just the underdog brand in general, but rather to think about what is the story that she wants to tell at the end of this. Who is the person that she wants to show up as that people will be talking about? Does she want to be the person that was like, oh, she didn't do that well and she kind of acted like, ugh? Or does she want to be able to share the story or have people sharing the story about her of saying, wow, like the underdogs, like, yeah, they're great and maybe she didn't have her brightest moment. But what I loved is that she did not give up when the going got tough. Like, she gets the opportunity to be the living proof of not every day is a good day, not every race is a good race, but I have control over my attitude and my effort, and that's what I want people to be inspired by. That is such a powerful thing, and she took that. She took the bull by the horns. She went after it. She let go of the expectation of the outcome, and she had a fantastic weekend despite it all, getting a PR in the race, getting second overall in her age group, and it's like, that's what this is truly all about. And I know that there's so many of you that probably that face that. I know a lot of you that have joined the underdog team tell me that all the time of like, I'm terrified to wear this jersey and represent such a insanely amazing brand of incredibly impressive athletes and worry that I'm not one of them and let people down. Like wherever you're at, like whatever this situation applies to, please know that, again, not every day is going to be a good day, and that's okay. In fact, those days are the most important because you get to show yourself, hey, this is how I want to show up regardless, in spite of the bad things that are happening in my life or happening in this race or whatever the case is. Like that is so powerful to be able to take control of what you can and flip the script on that story versus making it like, I'm just going to, throw in the towel, whatever. So just want to share that. I'm so proud of you, Lucy. And I know that that is going to not only be a confidence builder as you move forward in this journey where there's going to be several up and downs, but just as an individual and as a fellow coach, like this is going to build you as a human. So I'm very excited for that. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes of the episode. Listener Q&A, all about mindset for athletes. I have 4 questions that we're going to dive into today. The first one being, how do I stay consistent when the motivation is gone? I have to apologize ahead of time if you've heard me speak on this topic before, because I know I've said this once or twice and my answer is very similar, but I think that this is such an incredible reminder. Motivation is never, ever, 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 ever there when you need it. So you cannot rely on it to carry you through, especially during these tough moments in life. What I'd ask for you to do instead, if you find yourself leaning on motivation to carry you through, is instead to look at your measure of success for this season of life and also this particular goal. And if you do not have a measure of success for either of those, this is an incredible opportunity to do said thing. When you do define that, ask yourself, is this realistic, or am I just putting myself under unnecessary pressure? And if you're putting yourself under unnecessary pressure, then this is an opportunity to redefine that measure of success. Guys, remove the expectation, remove the outcomes. And I know that that is so much easier said than done, but replace this whole feeling that you're having around not having the motivation and wanting to just like push through it. Replace all of that with this question. What would make myself proud in this particular moment? If I was to show up in this way, like, would that make myself proud? Like, that is a question that puts your head in the right place to take the appropriate action. I'd also ask yourself, when was the last time that you actually took a break? Like, when was the last time that you did a for fun training session or even gone and did a class? That may have nothing to do with your goal whatsoever, but when's the last time you just gave yourself the freedom to just be and to just move? I sometimes find that like we fall in and out of this love of movement and what we're doing, and sometimes we just need to fall back in love with it and what it does with our life rather than banging our head up against the wall wondering why we can't get ourselves to make forward progress. So all that to say, make sure you have a good measure of success for this season of life. Take those expectations, acknowledge that you just want yourself to do well, but we don't need to lean into those right now. We need to think about who it is that we want to show up as instead. And give yourself the luxury of having a little bit of fun, of blurring away from the line a little bit, like stepping away and giving yourself some breathing room. When you do that, it's a way of like recharging up the batteries. That actually leads into the next question that I received, which is, what is the difference between discipline and burnout, and how do I know which one I'm in? An incredible question. This one, when I read it, I was like, I'm thinking pretty hard about this right now because there truly is such a fine line between the two, and we probably walk that line way more than we ever want to admit. It honestly made me think about this viral reel that pops up from time to time where it's like, do it scared, do it tired, do it this, and that. I'm sure you've probably seen it. And just how that quote preaches discipline, but also can lead you down the path of burnout. So like, how do we navigate that? The first thing that I would do is I would go back and look at your vitals. So things like your recovery score, your HRV, your sleeping patterns. Like, are you actually sleeping, or are you sleeping like poop? Stress, all of those things, right? Are you in line in those different metrics, or are you literally hanging on by a thread where each day it just feels like I need a cup of coffee, and if I could, I'd go like hide in a corner and just either cry or hide? If they are out of whack, your body is asking you for a downshift. So listen to it. If you also find that your workouts are feeling harder than normal and you approach your training sessions with literally zero desire to do them, that is another key factor that you are on your way to burnout. If not, you're already there. Now, I will say this. There are those like really hard sessions, those quality threshold sessions where you were like, I have no interest in wanting to do this. And that is fairly normal, especially for people like me. I'm raising my hand right now. But if everything else is in check and you're feeling that way, this just might be an opportunity to work on your discipline for the hard stuff, right? The days before I plan my own training. The days before I do a specific session, I'm like, oh, I'm excited to knock this out. This is going to like really move the lever. And then when it comes time to like, I need to hurt and do the actual thing, I'm like, well, maybe I can change this around instead and do this. And it's like, no. Like, this is the opportune moment to work on the discipline of doing what you said you were going to do. Here is my biggest piece of advice that I'm still working to follow myself, and when I do, it works. The first thing is to acknowledge the stories, but to show them the proof. Acknowledge the fact that it's hard. Acknowledge the fact that it sucks to go through the hard. Acknowledge all of that. Don't try and say like, I need to be mentally stronger and not think that it's hard. No, acknowledge the fact that it's really hard and that you have made it through 100% of your hardest moments. Go back, look for the proof and say, remember when I did that? Not only the times where it was like, I did it and it actually felt good, it felt easy, but the times where we were like, oh my God, I am hanging on by a thread right now, and you still made it through to the other side. The second piece of advice is to focus on just taking the first step and not looking at the whole staircase. When you look at everything that you have to do in this workout and you're like, I don't know about that. That looks like a lot and I'm overwhelmed. Focus on, you know what? Let me just lay on the floor and foam roll my body first. Let me just take the first step of getting in my warm up. Let me just take the first step of doing the first interval. And if I really don't feel good, if I'm really not locked in, then I can give myself the freedom to pull the plug. But guys, 9 times out of 10, when I just give myself the chance to just focus on the step that I'm on, I find the motivation. I find that whip. I find that second level of let's go after it and let's get it. And so sometimes you just have to back off a little bit and just look down exactly at your feet versus like how far they have to travel. The next question is, how do I rebuild my confidence after a bad race or after a bad training session? This is such a good one, but unfortunately, and this is no offense to the individual that asked this, I think that this is the wrong question to be asking yourself, as there is truly no such thing as a bad race or a bad training session. This is so much easier to say, and it's way harder to believe. Easier to say, harder to believe. But when we adopt the concept that every effort you do just becomes data collection, like when that becomes just a part of your core mindset, so many incredible things happen. You're no longer holding yourself back because there's truly nothing to lose when you operate off that mindset. You can just go out there and say, I'm going to go out hot and see what happens and be like, wow, I learned I can do this and I learned that will not work, right? You also don't look at the efforts that didn't go as planned as I failed. And rather, what you look at it as, okay, I learned what not to do. I learned where my limits are, and I'm glad I learned them now versus learning them at a different point in time, right? Or whatever that case might be. Instead of asking yourself this question of like, how do I rebuild my confidence? Instead, start asking yourself, what did this session where the outcome I was hoping for did not happen, what did it ultimately teach me? Take a curious learner's approach to this. And again, when you do that, you're going to find like, wow, I am so grateful for these sessions that don't go the way that they're planned because I just figured out all the answers to the test. I cannot tell you when I've done like a sim of a race or I've done a race and I'm like, ooh,
that was not it. And I'm like, well, thank God that it wasn't world championships, or thank God it wasn't this, because now I know all of these amazing things that I get to like use going forward. Like, that is how we learn. That is how we grow. And if we only expect ourselves to have good training sessions, we don't give ourselves the gift of what the quote unquote bad training sessions give us. Take a deep breath and remember this rule of thirds. This is another very viral thing that an Olympic athlete talked about. This is something that I get sent every couple of months by some of my athletes, but she talks about a coach coaching her on the rule of thirds. A third of your training should go really well. A third of your training should be, moderate to like okay. And a third of your training should be like not ideal whatsoever. And I'm talking in relation to outcomes. Like you felt really good, like you felt productive, like you moved the needle. The other ones were like, wasn't bad, wasn't great. We just did the session. And the other third should be like, I feel like I just fell on my face. If you're doing that, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Because again, all of those different things teach you different things, and they give you different things. So if you find that all you were having are great sessions, then you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. If all you're finding is that you're having bad sessions, well, you're probably burnt out. You need to take a downshift, and you also need to like look at your measure of success and give yourself more credit for what you are doing. Okay. And if you're right there in the middle, you're probably honestly in that sweet spot, right? And you just need to go out there and look for those different things that these sessions are teaching you. All right, last question. I keep comparing myself to other athletes, and I don't know how to stop. Any thoughts? I got all the thoughts. Because this is one that you constantly have to keep a pulse on, because this shows up in your life and on your journey in so many different ways at different times. The thing that I'd ask for you to do is to not beat yourself up if you find yourself thinking these thoughts. 9 times out of 10, what it means is that you genuinely care about your performance and being the best that you can be, which is not a crime by any means. However, if I know anything about going through these moments, is it does bring about this not enough concept, which I know is something that so many of us struggle with in different parts of our lives. I actually had this really cool moment the other day where I was sitting in the back office talking to some coaches, and someone brought up like, oh yeah, like Kayla's a badass. She did like Ninja Warrior and blah, blah, blah. And all these people were like, what? Like you never talk about it. Like that's so crazy. And, so I told them about my time on the television show and blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, you know what? That would actually be kind of cool, because all people see of me now are like DECA and Hyrox and ergs and running and other things, right? Like they don't see where I came from. And so I was like, it'd be really cool to like create a post about it. So I created like a video reel. And while I was doing that, I was like watching these videos back from years ago and was like, holy cow, like I am so cool. Like I was really cool. And that sounds ridiculous, but like back in the day, I never gave myself that credit. I was always comparing myself to the competitors around me and thinking, when will it ever be my turn? When will I ever feel proud of myself? When will it ever just like click for me? I know that some people think that like recording videos of themselves or taking photos of big moments, like all those things can be somewhat self-absorbed, maybe even vapid. But honestly, I'm so happy I have those, because I see it as a way for me to remember like just how incredible I am. I really do. And I think that that's such an amazing opportunity for so many of you listening. Like, have someone record your next race, record some stuff from your next training session. And don't feel weird by going back and looking at those and being like, wow, look at how strong I am. Look at how far I've came. Like, it's just a visual way to acknowledge yourself. When it comes to maybe the success that other people are seeing, I would say in order of how to deal with that is to think about how their success is not a lack of what is available to you, but rather is proof that it is possible for you as well. So it doesn't mean that you can't because they already did. It should be serving as like, okay, someone just proved that it is possible to do said things. So now I just have to figure out how to get there myself. I have to remember that I am on my own path and I'm on my own timing, but with patience and with focus on myself, I will get there. I've seen this time and time again. And I think one of the best examples of this is like women going sub 60 in high rocks. The moment that someone did it, I'm not saying that everyone all of a sudden started raining sub 60s, but there was a handful of women that started going sub 60 from that point on, right? And now we're pushing the barriers of like sub 56 at some point, which is insane. So like once someone does it, it just gives the proof that something that is possible for so many other people. And that's such a gift. However, you just have to make sure that you see it as that and not see it as, okay, well, they just took that part of the pie. Now there's none left for me. See it as proof and really, really, really shift that focus on, okay, they gave me the proof, to now shifting it to, I have the proof. Now what do I need to do to execute? If you get angry at yourself in this process of being stuck in comparison, take a step back, acknowledge your feelings. Know that you're validated in everything that you feel. Just be mindful of how you act upon them. Acknowledge them, understand where they came from, give yourself validation for how you feel, but then be mindful of, okay, this is how I'm going to choose to act upon them. Are you going to complain and make excuses? Or are you thinking, this is clearly important to me. What am I going to do about it? What am I going to do to set myself up for the success that I want to see for myself? The other thing that I'd say in relation to this is do not walk the journey alone. Don't do it. If you're seeing someone with the success that you want, go ask them. Extend out the olive branch and say, I am super impressed with you. I love watching your journey and I'm inspired. I would love to learn from you. Would you be willing to sit down for coffee, or would you be willing to jump on a call? Guys, more people want to help than you will ever know. And instead of playing enemies with them, link arms with them and borrow the belief that they have that you can do it too. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. And I hope that this episode truly resonated. I am just stoked to be able to dig in on these questions with you guys. And if you find that you have other questions that you would like for me to answer in future episodes, don't be shy. Send me a message and I'm happy to drop some perspective on them. But until then, I'll be waiting for your guys' questions and we'll see you next week for another episode of Becoming Your Strong. See you then.